Let's get started, shall we? Hello, hey. How are you doing? Hope you had a great lunch and ready for some insightful dessert. Great to see you today. Really glad to be here. So, Mariusz, thank you once again for the invitation. Big kudos to those of you who are watching us online or in the record. My name is Ten. I'm VP of Product at AppMagic, an analytical tool for analyzing mobile markets and gaining actionable insights. Today, I'm going to talk about the most promising mobile genres and niches of 2023, both gaming and non gaming. So, the most interesting and the hottest niches you might really want to pay attention to. Before we start, there is one question you might be asking: who the hell is this guy and why should I believe his expertise? So, a couple of words about me and my company. I've got a more than 10 years experience in the IT industry, and primarily I've been working with developing products. So I used to work in companies of all sizes, from small startups to big corporations. I even had a gamified ed tech company of my own. And what I'm basically trying to say is that I know for sure the pains that any of you developing game or app feels. So I can really relate. I'm also a big researcher. I believe in numbers. I really love data. That's one of the reasons I'm working at AppMagic. And I used to be a teacher. Actually, for a couple of years, I worked as a mathematical teacher at school, a fact that not a lot of people know. And as for AppMagic, well, I've already mentioned, we help to solve difficult research tasks with ease. So our main goal is not just to give an overview of the market, but rather give simplified but rather insightful, actionable insights for you to use. And yeah, we do analyze and research a lot. That is basically our profession. So buckle up and let's get ready for some insights. The main goal for me today is not just to give you the overview, though I will dive deep into different subgenres and niches, but rather to leave you with some actionable insights, something that you can take right away and use in your job. I think that will be the best result. Before that, there is one more question that you might be asking. Why do I need this kind of thing in general? Why is it so important to know the right niche? And there is a piece of fact that I really love. More than 10,000 titles appear monthly that would be featured at least once. So they would be seen worldwide by the users. 2/3, 70% of these titles are well produced, well built, and well developed. So they were a dedicated team of experts who were trying to build a great product. Yet only 3% of these titles, games and apps both, will earn more than $100,000 in a lifetime. And we definitely want to be among these 3%. Actually, I think we want to be even more successful. And at least for that, we need a good research team. But if it's not enough for you, there are 4 additional facts or thoughts, especially based on the last year. So the first one, probably you've noticed, we are in the middle of a global recession. It hit hard, and it will continue the upcoming years. So what it means for us practically, we have lower budgets for development and marketing. We don't have so much freedom to experiment. So we want to be really sure about the development, about the launching new products or operating already existing ones. We want to be sure about the choices that we make. What is even more important, we have to be careful with our resources. We've got smaller teams, we've got big layoffs, and that means that we have to double check that we are sure about the niche we are going to or market we're looking for. For those of you who are thinking about investing right now or having some investment money, I've got bad news. Well, apparently, as during any recession right now, it's very bad investing conditions, so you might consider waiting. And also, for the people out there, for the users, for the players, it means spending less. So less in-app purchases. Especially it is connected to the post-COVID hangover, and I will return to it in a minute, but also to the fact that people feel guilty spending money for mobile apps and games during the recession. Secondly, and second fact, market's going down. So you've all heard about the gaming market going down last year, and lots of folks out there were screaming, running around. For the first time ever, the revenue for the whole market went down after a big booming during the COVID. And yes, we can see this. So by 9%, it was down. And what is even more important, before that, year to year, it was growing by recently 15%. So the dynamic was like minus 25 around so percent. It's a lot. It's really a lot, guys. What about apps? It seems like apps were growing. Well, right? Well, not sure. So if you look at it for the previous several years, apps were growing around 30% year to year, fluctuating around this number. For the last year, the number was less than half of that. So we can see pretty drastic changes here as well, and we should be careful with our resources. Fact number 3. I'm pretty sure you've seen this one. Apple and privacy changes. So I won't be talking much about it, just keep it in mind. And interesting fact is that it doesn't only mean that we have higher CPIs right now. It's more difficult for us to attract traffic. We already have seen it. We already got used to it. We already feel this pain. But what is even more important, the traffic that we acquire is worse. So basically, it means that in half a year, in several years, especially when we are talking about loan retention products, we will see a decrease in the revenue. So there are several opinions about it. For example, yesterday we were talking with the guys, and some people think that we are already out of this downtrend, but there are big guys, big companies out there who still think we will see the ripples of the waves up to 2 or 3 years from this moment. So this is a continuous change, which works like a great marketing gimmick for selling phones, doesn't really work for advertising industry. And last but not least, the one I've mentioned already, post-COVID hangover. So people are generally tired of mobile phones. They've got other things to do. They can go outside, they can meet with friends, and they spend less due to both recession and guilt feeling. And another thing, during the COVID, we were growing big. We were growing our teams, and right now we've got massive layoffs, which, going to the point 1, affects our business. So all this taken together should really make you think about being careful with the niches and genres you're looking at. And that is one of the reasons we are trying to be as specific as we can. These are the criteria for today's subgenres and niches I would talk about. First of all, they should be profitable. We want to earn money, after all. We're businesses. So we need a growing trend year over year in Tier 1 West region. Why Tier 1? Well, for several reasons. Because it is the most profitable region, because it is the most scalable region. If you work profitably in Tier 1 West, you can work profitably in most of the other regions as well. But you definitely already know it. Secondly, we want the market to be accessible so that it doesn't require unique expertise or giant budgets. We want to work with small teams with small budgets and still gain profits. Third, we want a competitive market. We don't want something that has a status quo in the top grossing and there is no possibility for us to be there. So we want new titles appearing in the top grossing in this niche. Then we want the market to be safe. And that is a very interesting point because not many people out there think about it in numbers perspective. We usually calculate the risk to success ratio. So we basically look at all the new titles coming out in the market and how many of them were profitable enough, reaching the benchmark. And based on that, we can see which markets have the highest risk to success ratio. We want to focus on them. Then we want to be precise. And for that, we use a special categorization system. So basically, we've got a dedicated team of experts who categorize all the apps, all the games coming to both App Store and Google Play on a daily basis. What for? To be precise, to have distinguishable from other subgenres niches. And last but not least, scalable. We want markets with proven marketing strategies, and we will talk about it today as well. So, what will be the structure? For each niche, we will consider state of the market, what is going there right now. We will look at the winners and contenders. Are there any interesting trends that we can spot? We will look at the number of new releases and risk to reward ratio. I've already mentioned it. We will look at the most popular ad creatives. And last but not least, conclusions. So for the games, we will go to Merge 2 or as we call it, merge 2 with meta, idle tycoons, idle RPG, and survival arena. For the apps, we will look at reading, we will look at AI-based apps, mainly text or image-based, and trading. Before talking about games or apps, we also will look at general market overview. So for the games, we can see the most popular categories here. So they were, well, definitely these four you've seen already. They are the classical giants. Puzzle games, casino, strategy, and RPG go in really strong. Simulators were doing quite all right. And then there is this tail. But we do not want just to look at the whole overview. We want to see the year-to-year comparison, because we already know there was a decrease, but was it spread evenly during all the markets, or was there some difference? Well, actually there was. So puzzle, casino, strategy, RPG, these four, they went down. What we can see right away, shooters got crashed, like almost in half, and it was absolutely crazy for some apparent reason. So if you are thinking about developing a new shooter game, think twice. What is also interesting is arcade. It grew despite the whole trend, and the majority of the niches I will be talking about today in the games are from arcade. You can also see card games that almost stayed on the same level. And we will not talk about card games today for two apparent reasons. The first one, usually card games and collectible card games are much more resourceful when we talk about development. It's more difficult to produce them. And secondly, the growth that you can see right here was due to one game, Marvel Snap. It had a very strong IP. Well, from my point of view, Marvel has one of the strongest IP right now. It had a very experienced team behind it. The guys made Hearthstone before, so basically they knew what they were doing. So we will not go into that. And let's look also at the number of new releases in the games market. Here we can see that puzzle was going strong, not a surprise. Casino, all right, but look at the arcade. More than 10,000 new titles. And that's another reason why we will be looking at arcane subgenres really close. So, beginning with Merge 2, or as we call it, Merge 2 with Meta. The market almost doubled through the year, actually more than doubled. There were 122 new titles released. 5 of them were successful, so they reached the benchmark, and it pointed to 4.1% success rate. You might be thinking that 4.1 is not a big number, but keep in mind that, for example, for the casual games in general, the benchmark, the average success rate is 0.26. Once again, 0.26 if you just want to make a match 3 game or an average casual game. So this is much, much bigger and much better from the success to risk ratio. So, looking at the winners and contenders. On the left, we will see the best performing apps right now. And on the right, we will see who among the new titles released made it to the tops, who were the most successful. So right away, we can see that Merge Mansion is still going strong. That is a very quality produced game by Metacore with investment and expertise from Supercell. So there is no surprise they are going so strong, especially compared to other top grossing niches. But we can also see that Gossip Harbor, a game released just last year in summer, it made it to the top on the second position. And it's a good sign for us. It means that this market can be addressable. We can go there and we can win it. All right, and I've got some ads to show as well, just to understand what is going from the ads perspective. So the first one, you've probably seen it. The mystery was grandma is hiding. What is going on? She's so sneaky, trying to go somewhere. Granddaughter doesn't understand what is going on. Yeah, so there is some high level of production. There is some strong mystery narrative connected to the game. So when you go to the game, you can see this as well. And well, basically, if you've got Mandalorian advertising your game, then there is something going right with it. Secondly, we can see that all the trends that are going in match 3 games, Rocks to Riches, Fake Makeover, Damsel in Distress, they all work with the merge games as well. So these kind of creatives you've seen it, I'm sure. What I'm trying to tell is that they work here as well. If you've got expertise at match 3 games, then you will be like at home with merge. And last but not least, you can target different audience. So originally, when we talk about merge games, they're targeted at female audience. But guys from Medieval Merge tried another approach, and they decided to go for the medieval/fantasy RPG genre. So in the game itself, there is no fighting, there is no defending the village, but they can use this approach in the ads, and it helps them to reach lower CPIs. So taken from that, yeah, come on, what we can remember and what we can take. Well, first, intriguing detective narrative with a mystery works great, especially when it goes seamlessly and aligns with the story in the game. Secondly, main match 3 advertising trends like damsel in distress, or rocks to riches, or fake makeover show good numbers. And also, experimenting with audience can result in better targeting and lower CPIs. Though I should warn you, Medieval Merge is the only example in the Merge 2 with Meta market that has this approach. So if you think about it, think really careful, think twice. Then Idle Tycoon. This market was growing not as much as Merge 2, and I'd say that all the other markets we will be looking at will not grow as much, but still it was successful. There were much more new titles released, more than 400, and that is basically connected to the fact that Idle Tycoons are easier to produce. Out of them, 12 titles were successful, which brings us to almost 3% success rate. Out of the winners and contenders, what we can see here, I think I can see lots of you making screenshots and voting. I think the presentation will be available if you want it afterwards. So first of all, Golden Goblins, Idle Merger, still going strong. Interesting fact, we made an article with the guys, and we know for sure that the original game was produced by a team with less than 10 people. So yeah, afterwards it was published by App Quantum with all the marketing, all the monetization techniques, but originally the game itself, that brings now more than $35 million, was developed by a team of 10. It is quite a good fact to know. Secondly, let's look at the last position here, RuPaul's Drag Race Superstar. What it basically says is that IP still works. Whatever genre we can take, I'm pretty sure that the majority of these 10 millions was brought because of the very strong IP. And last but not least, Frozen City. A new game appeared, I think, in autumn, as far as I remember, last year, going very strong, based on their Frostpunk original title from PC and console, but taking a rather Idle Tycoonish approach to it, and Idle Tycoon monetization, which resulted in pretty good numbers. So going from there to the ads, what we have here? Well, first of all, Golden Goblins was so successful also because of very successful advertising campaign. They had some great ad creatives last year, and they still going strong. So the same patterns can be seen used by other contenders in the industry as well, and they're also successful. So you can learn from the best practices from the niche, and using it in different art style, in different setting, it will work. Secondly, well, you can appeal to the strengths of your game. If you're all about cuteness, tenderness, and kittens, use it. We have seen the Cat Soup idle game being very successful last year, and this one, Cat Snack Bar, definitely takes this to the next level. And last but not least, you can see the two different media. So mixing the real-life video with a gameplay helps to hook the players and attract more users. So, taken from that, successful creatives work for different settings and art styles. New creatives can be an evolution of previous successful ones. So if you see successful creatives in some market or niche, think about them, think how you can enhance them and use them. Use strengths of your game in the advertising. Should it be art style, setting, or the whole theme or emotional topic? And mix in different media like gameplay and some spot on video can attract more attention. The third niche we will be talking about is survival arena. And that is an interesting case. So before the last year, this subgenre didn't exist at all. So it appeared, and right away, almost 300 titles appeared last year, I'd say from June. So you can see that from summer, it grew wild. What is interesting, there was only one new successful title in the Tier 1 West region and 6 successful titles worldwide, so which bring us to 0.4 successful rate, which is not a lot. But there is a big but. You can see that the growth was from the summer. So if looking at the distribution of the revenue during the different games, the blue one is the original game Survivor IO, and it took the market by storm. But taking this point when the game was released and taking this game away from the equation gives us sudden result. We can see that the other games that existed even before Survivor IO became pretty successful afterwards. And the main reason for that is that the core gameplay, a very sticky, a very interesting gameplay that was used in Survivor IO, was integrated in already existing games. So I'd say that the majority of the successful titles in this niche, they were not released last year, but they were recombined and revisioned with a new core gameplay. And because of that, the success rate is much higher. So looking at the winners and contenders, once again, we can see that Heavy going really strong. The thing that they did with Archero 3 years ago continues today with Survivor, with almost $50 million earned, both in in-app purchases. We also can see that most of the contenders earn not as much, but they still can earn more than $1 million in profit, which is quite all right. Looking at the ads, so what we can see here? Well, first of all, when we are talking about survival arena genre, one of the main things is the feeling of you versus the horde of enemies. When you just go like a hot knife through the butter, you can use your abilities and you can just feel yourself as God. And that is the feeling that you want to give to the player and to the user when they want to watch your ad. So this can be seen in this example. You just smash all the enemies and you feel invincible. And it works really well. So it doesn't work only for Survivor IO. We've seen it with other clones with lots of impressions and lots of installs. Secondly, know the media you are using. So for this genre, the majority of the downloads came from TikTok. So usually the most popular ad creatives were UGC-like, so they were not very polished. They had a voiceover, and they were in a variation of guides. So, guys, you've probably seen this game, how it should be played, what should you do with it, how you should progress in it.
How to play Lonely Survivor. This method makes you a master in the game. You begin with a sure kick, kill mobs, and gain XP to upgrade skills. Then, 3 options for you to upgrade. Ignore other skills and just pick shuriken. Doubled amount, double damage.
Yeah, ignore other skills and just pick shuriken. Way to go. But nevertheless, it works. And last but not least, interesting example, you probably know that Vampire IO was originally based on a game called Vampire Survivors, released on PC and console last year. And it also went to mobile with another type of monetization, with another approach. They knew it. So by the time they made a mobile version, they already seen all the clones of their game. And they used it in their app as well. Just look at it.
Do you folks have phones? The original Vampire Survivors is out now on mobile. The full game for free, for real. Please be excited. Available now for iOS and Android. Stop doing drugs. Be the bullet hell. Oh yeah.
It's good, isn't it? I mean, what they are noticing, they're original, they're free. You can play it on a plane, you can play it whenever you want, and well, just enjoy it. So, taking from there, what are the key takeaways? Even if you're in a niche of your own, marketing is the key. So I think the majority of the success that came to the Survivor IO and the majority of the money came due to the marketing. You need a good marketing campaign, even if you're unique. Not just describe your features, let the players feel it. Mimic the media you're using for advertising. So if you're using TikTok, use one approach. If you're using YouTube, use another approach, and so on. Learn from the best and make an extra step. This one, we were talking about it already. If you see some approach that works really well in your niche, take an extra step and boost it. And when being a unicorn, don't advertise a horse. Understand what is your difference with the competitors and highlight it. And the last gaming genre will be idle RPG. So this one, it was not so big compared to previous ones, but the growth was the best. More than 3 times it was growing last year, with more than 200 new titles released, 3 successful titles out of them, and 1.4% successful rate. As for the winners and contenders, what we can see here? Well, these are the 3 titles released, and right away we can see that 2 of them made it to the top. Actually, not just to the top, but the first and the third position. Once again, just with the merge, this is the good indicator that we can go out there in this market, we can develop a good game, we can use our marketing resource, and we can hit the spot. As for the ads, there are a couple of examples. So the first one will appeal to your target audience. So know what they love. Here, we're talking about RPG. So we are talking about lots of choices and about progression. Yeah. So, and you can see it shown right here. The second one, it actually takes the strength of the game out of the game. So you can show that this game is so idle, it can play, it basically can play itself.
Hey guys, this game automatically advances when you're working. You don't need 100 control of the game when you wash your hands. Here will also move forward to kill monsters.
Who needs to play the game when it can play itself? Yeah, why not?
Will not stop.
Yeah, and the third one, you probably will recognize it, is just the question of misleads using the new trends and new creatives. So the original game itself, Legend of Slime, it's not just that at all. We can see that basically it's survival arena. We've just seen it in the previous ads. But this creative works, and it works like charm. So taking from there, what should we remember from idle RPG? Appeal to your target audience and their desires. If we're talking about RPG, we're talking about lots of options, about progression, show it. Sometimes your advertising USP can be outside the game. It happens. And false advertising is still a thing. Well, unfortunately, but it is, especially for popular niches. So look out not just for your genre, but for the neighboring subgenres as well. All right, let's have a breathe out. We finished with the games, and now we will talk about the apps. As with the games, let's look at the state of the apps market, what was happening there. So we can see right away that the majority of the revenue was, do I have a pointer, was driven by entertainment apps. And that's one of the reasons we will talk mainly about entertainment apps in some format right now. When comparing year to year, we can see that for the majority of the niches, there was growth, though with personalization, it went down, and finance went down as well. However, there is a very interesting fact about the finance niche that I will share a bit later, and this is one of the reasons we will talk about one of the subgenres there. And of course, we will talk about entertainment as well. Looking at the new apps released last year, we can see that, well, once again, entertainment is going strong. So it was the biggest from the revenue perspective and the best from the new titles release perspective. Suddenly, tools were going strong. And when we're talking about tools, we're mainly talking about VPNs, cleaners, downloaders. So things that are pretty easily produced. And also personalization suddenly was quite all right. So right now, we will dig deeper into the entertainment and also into finance, starting with reading. It might be surprising, well, at least it was surprising for me, but reading market went up by $6 million. There were more than 100 successful titles last year, with more than 100 titles released last year with 7 successful ones. So 6% success rate is quite all right, I might say. Looking at the winners and contenders, what we can see right away. So from the winner's perspective, there is one app that I will really want to pay attention to called Webtoon, because when we're thinking about reading apps, we're thinking about books, we're thinking about audiobooks, but this one it consists mainly of comics and manga, and it's very popular, especially in Tier 1 West region. And when we are looking at contenders, there is some trend that we can spot. Well, first of all, you can see all the words novel, and you can see all these setting hashtags like werewolves, vampires, bondage, romance, fantasy, fanfic, alpha luna. You got it. So basically, the main idea is that all the pulp fiction literature we can see in the stores ended up in the apps, and it still works. So knowing your trend, knowing your audience, using the fan fiction, for example, really helps to sell. Looking at the ads, I was really sincerely trying to take as safe as ads as I could. So the first one, it's one of the safest, I think. So yeah, you can feel it. You can take it from there. It appeals to some fantasies, let us call it so, and it works. The second one, it just uses this misleads in a Tinder-like app with different kind of archetypes that you may find in a series or in a book. And last, it is more creative. It appeals to the reader and understanding what is going with the reader. And personally, I love it most.
I was so miserable.
Why? Aren't you the protagonist?
In my first life, my family was destroyed. I went through a rebirth and I was killed by an alien in seconds.
But you're reborn again and you're a genius in this magical world. How enviable.
Well, the protagonist's growth is so torturous.
So stop complaining and get stronger. This time your destiny is your own.
Yeah, so it's just some kind of a connection between the reader and between the protagonist, and it looks really great. So, taking from there, the reader's apps. Focusing on a specific setting helps to target audience. When you know who are you appealing with, are you working with vampires, are you working with werewolves, bondage, then you can be better. Exclusive content and unique authors attract users. We've seen it in other niches as well, especially when we talk about bloggers or influencers. Here, it works even better. False advertising is still a thing even here. We've seen it. And think as your user and be creative, because in the end of the day, it really helps. Now to the second big category, AI entertainment. So this is not a subcategory of its own yet. From our tool, for example, it is called Entertainment Other, and there are both AI and non-AI apps. So we can see that this whole market was, pretty stable, fluctuating around 17 millions. But using the tool called Advanced Search in AppMagic, we can track down the AI-based tools. There were almost 100 of them, and of them, 8 were successful. So this brings us to 8.2% successful rate, which is quite all right. Mainly, we can see that there are 2 combinations of AI-based entertainment apps right now. So either they're all about art generator, image, avatar, you name it, image. And the second one is about chatbot. Looking this year for the first quarter, the market just blew up with all the AI-based generators. And looking at the ads, they're really easy to being advertised because they can show the value right away. For example, with this one, we can just show how an avatar can be created using the AIs. And it looks pretty impressive from my point of view, even though if you know how it works, if you've seen already these combinations. The second one is using chatbot, and it basically teaches you how to use some kind of a prompt or a question for the chatbot to answer. And from my point of view, I think this creative would be even better if the person would be asking how to make a good creative for a chatbot, like an irony, but then again, it works. And the third one.
There goes the baker with his tray, like always. The same old bread and rolls to some. Every morning, just the same.
Yeah, what is interesting, we can see that for the change avatar on change face apps, they use stars a lot. So here they use Rowan Atkinson and the voice of Emma Stone. I've already seen, I think, Taylor Swift and Zendaya, and I'm pretty sure they are not aware of the usage of their faces and their trademark. But then again, it really impresses. And that's the main reason why it is used in the advertising. So taken from there, this market is fairly new and fast developing. Wild West, lots of things happening. AI use cases are very effective to show. They attract people, and it turns out to be lower CPIs. All-in-one apps turn into one feature app. So lots of photo and video editors right now, they look like a plain control panel. They are too difficult to use. So some of these features are taken away as a one feature app, and they work brilliantly. And the best advertising practices from other established genres work quite well. So there are no rules here whatsoever, but we already know rules in other niches. Why not use them? And now about the finance. Remember, I've said that there is a reason why we want to talk about it. And the reason is right here. When comparing quarters to quarters, we can see that there was an upward trend for the last 3 quarters. So when comparing year to year, it was still in decline. But right now, for the 9 months straight, it was growing. So this is a good sign in general. Also, we can see that there is something interesting going on. With all the niches inside, there is one, the red one, that was going pretty big. The blue one, by the way, it's like finance other, and it's a hodgepodge of different apps, different approaches, so it's really difficult to analyze it, but we can analyze the red one, and it is trading. So it's really interesting to look at the trading subgenre in this category. Last year, it went from almost 700,000 to 86. There were 60 titles released, 0 successful titles, but keep in mind that the majority of the trading apps, they not use in-app purchases. They use different types of monetization. So this is not might be the case. Nevertheless, we can see that there is growth, more than 25% actually, and it is the best growth we've seen so far. So this market is worth checking out. What is interesting, you can definitely see a big spike here. So when looking at the numbers, it was like 3 times higher than the average. What was the main reason? Well, actually, that was one app called TradingView, and it was during the November. You can guess what was the reason. You can try. Sorry? It was Black Friday. Yeah, they were having sales all over the place with advertising in all social media, and it affected the whole market. So, looking at the winners and contenders, I think, well, yeah, here is TradingView. We've already seen it. What is interesting about the contenders that all of them were released from August and later, and almost all of them have either AI in the name, in the title, or in the description. So we're about to see a wave of trading apps and trading instruments using the AI components. And that is one of the main outtakes, I think, that you should remember from this one. So Black Friday works better than ever. Trading is popular, not only during Fed years, but during the recession as well, and we can see it. And AI-based solutions and personalization is the new wave. It is already used pretty actively, and it will be used especially in the apps. So keep that in mind if you want to develop a trading app. All right. I've shared lots of insights, lots of information, sorry about that. But if there are 3 things that you will take away from this talk, I want them to be these. First of all, do your homework. Research markets to know what's going on, because at the end of the day, it will bring you success. Well, not success, but a better probability of success, which is quite all right. Keep in mind risk to success ratio, as well as development costs. And usually people think about the second one, but not about the first one. And use data, find insights, research big and wide, know what is going on in the market in general, and what is going on in your exact sub-niche or subcategory, because it can help you to achieve better revenue. Thank you. I think that's all from my side. Thank you for your attention and your time.
Super, Stanislav. Thank you so much for this. We'll take 1 or 2 questions just to make sure we keep with the time. Oh, yeah, there we go. So we can probably start with a top one.
Is there any chance that you can become successful only with organic traffic? Oh, that's a good one. So, a little fact. You probably know that Supercell releases every year an annual report with CEO talking about the game perspective and the whole company. So the last time they released it, they said that more than 90% of their player base, new player base, for all the titles, including Clash of Clans, which is going 10 years straight, is organic. So it can happen. At the same time, not everyone is Supercell, and we have to keep it in mind. I'd say that nowadays, organic traffic will be more important because of all the advertising changes. It is more difficult to attract users. It is more important to retain users. So having a good, interesting game with a good core gameplay, with meta gameplay, or an app that really solves someone's problem helps you to have good traffic, organic traffic. So I'd say marketing is still important, but there will be incline in a balance to organic a bit more.
Super. And then next two questions, I think that's kind of combined. What's the definition of success?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. So from our perspective, the definition of success is earning at least $600,000 in a year. And keep in mind that we are not talking about the apps released or games released only in January. So, for example, there can be apps that were released during summer and they've earned the same amount of money during half a year or during several months. But in general, we want to see a steady growth in the revenue that can show that this exact app or game is scalable and can be produced.
Perfect. I think let's move on, I'd say, as well. So